Do you come to Milwaukee often?
Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land. I think one of the most interesting aspects of Milwaukee is the fact that it's the only major American city to have ever elected 3 socialist mayors.
Does this guy know how to party or what?
You heard it here first.
You're listening to The Rundown Live with Kriston Harris and Mike Paczewski. The destroyer of fake news.
Now, you don't know it yet, but you are listening to History in the Making while you are listening to this show.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man's, yet as mortal as his own.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, and at the same time, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, race baiting, homophobia, famine, starvation. The mushroom said to me once, it said, "This is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse." And that's what we have, the fire in the madhouse at the end of time. This is what it's like when a species prepares to move on to the next dimension. The entire destiny of all life on the planet is tied up in this. We are not acting for ourselves or from ourselves. We happen to be the point species on a transformation that will affect every living organism on this planet at its conclusion.
You believe in aliens?
You have satellites now that can literally beam in Wi-Fi so that whether you have Wi-Fi in your home or not, they can start to track you. We are now moving into building out the kind of surveillance systems that can literally track, identify, and integrate with not only our existing weaponry, but ultimately autonomous weaponry. And all those systems put you in what I call the panopticon. So we saw in the Middle East with the first war with Iran, we saw 11 leaders out of 12 sort of top leaders in science and government assassinated because they're literally tracking everyone, and they can identify them and track them, and then you have invisible weaponry that can then take them out or, can identify missile strikes.
We were led to believe, just as newspaper readers or news consumers, that those 11 Iranian officials were targeted with human intelligence.
I was being raped every single day, sometimes for 3 times a day. When Ghislaine herself, by her own hand, forced me into Jeffrey Epstein's room to be raped. I spent the last 17 years trying to get some form of justice, trying to put together a life for myself. And I haven't been able to do that. If the FBI and the governmental institutions listened to Maria Farm in 1996, I wouldn't have been raped. Liz Stein, the other survivor, I was 10 years old when she was being trafficked. I was 10. I'm now 37. I was 10 when she was being raped. This was an international sex trafficking ring that trafficked hundreds of children and young women, into the thousands.
When I was being taken to these islands, I would see all kinds of popular and famous people. About Epstein himself, he was really able to switch on a dime from, absolute murderous rage killing to just completely pleasant and like affable. And his, I guess his programming was more successful than mine.
Wow.
'Cause he was very quick on his feet and totally changed to suit the situation always. That's probably why he was in the role that he was in. Tremendously versatile and very good code switcher, and just really, he could deal with the high-minded and the low-minded, and just kind of bring everybody to their basis level and send them on their way to to experience whatever horrible things they might want. So, it was a well-run operation.
Okay, here's our guy. Palm Beach Pete is Peter Semel. I found him online at the Casino Jack movie premiere back in 2010. He's pictured here with Robin Bronk and Lainey Hay. Robin Bronk is a movie producer, and Lainey Hay is involved with national security and actually owns a firm that equips national security agencies.
Crossed. Look at me. You're arrested. Is the part of your kingdom set? Is it?
But she won't take it.
What happens if she takes it?
She's ours.
She's yours. How? It's just
No.
it's
Mother works through medicine.
No, but it's
Let me notice the serpents.
the serpents. What serpents?
There are times during sessions of possession where the demons will actually manifest as what they call grays. These are demons portraying themselves, and they literally will morph looking like an alien. They claim, these grays, they claim that they are not angels or humans, and that they are neither good nor bad. This is why, as an exorcist, if your theology isn't fairly solid and fairly precise, you're going to end up in a lot of error. The fact that so many reports of abductions centered around the aliens hyper-focusing on sexual organs, or they giving us new knowledge, right? That they're communicating new knowledge to us. What this basically tells us is that some of this stuff that people are experiencing is just diabolic in nature. And I'm not using that hyperbolically. I'm saying literally demons are involved in it. Gary Bates, in the book Alien Intrusion, makes the following observation, quote, he cites the testimony of numerous witnesses who were engaged in communication with what appeared to be extraterrestrials, whose communications completely ceased the moment they confessed their faith in our Lord Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. One reliable witness of evangelical Christian background testified to lying in bed at night when the ceiling of his bedroom seemed to disappear, revealing the lights of what appeared to be a spaceship in the sky above him. A light descended from the spaceship, and the witness described feeling an overwhelming force drawing him up into the ship. In desperation, he cried out, "Jesus, help me." And the entire space scene, light and all, disappeared instantly. This is not just one isolated case. Gates goes into, this is something that we're seeing over and over again. He even goes into the fact that Bible-believing Christians, one of the hallmarks of people that have been abducted, and if you look at the people that have been abducted, the highest percentage of those people are people who are basically non-Christian. Then, of course, there's the problem of people receiving foreknowledge or occult knowledge from their abduction experiences or from aliens. And this is just what demons do. It's called foreknowledge. And I'm not just saying this because I'm an exorcist. Aliens can alter our perceptions of our surroundings. Demons can alter people's perceptions all the time. Abductees receive marks on their bodies. These other marks also include single punctures, multiple punctures, large bruises, 3 or 4 finger claw marks, and triangles of every kind of sorts. Demons do the exact same stuff. Abductees
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha. To the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time. And I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats, and they're coming to take...
Anytime your body's being touched or manipulated by somebody, you better know their spirituality.
Interesting, okay. Massage is okay.
Is it? What if it's a witch?
Okay, so if you're in a state of grace, you're getting a massage, how does the demon get onto you?
Well, the person could be doing all sorts of their prayers to open yourself up to them. You never want people touching you that you don't know who they are. I mean, it's a good rule of thumb anyway. This is on the rise. Witchcraft is one of the fastest growing religions right now in America. Once you see somebody that has to go through all the trouble of getting rid of the problem, just don't open the door.
Yoga?
No.
No.
The poses are signal to that particular demon attached to the pose.
Kundalini yoga is
10 times worse.
10 times worse.
You're inviting a serpent into your spine. It's like sending a bat signal up, you know? When you do the pose, oh, there's the signal, let's go.
This spring training, MOB has introduced an AI strike system. Pitches are now tracked by robots. This system broadcasts the pitch and makes the final call.
It's that time again. Time to relax and kick up your feet. Grab your favorite beverage and
because of this administration, we are tonight a world divided. We are a nation becalmed. We have lost the brisk pace of diversity and the genius of individual creativity. We are plodding along at a pace set by centralized planning, red tape, rules without responsibility, and regimentation without recourse.
Madam Speaker, I have a few questions for my colleagues. What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous?
To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan.
Promise of being one of the most effective treatments for AIDS and cancer in history. Now it's gone, and one of the most respected research facilities in the country is being blamed.
Participation in a process that validates an establishment that never meaningfully changes. What if that establishment doesn't want and doesn't have the consent of the governed? What if the two-party system was actually a mechanism used to limit so-called public opinion? What if there were more than two sides to every issue, but the two parties wanted to box you into a corner, one of their corners?
Censored by the mainstream media, the destroyer of fake news, and your host of the Rundown Live, Kriston T. Harris.
Welcome to all those tuning in today to the Rundown Live, therundownlive.com. I'm your host, Kriston T. Harris. We are broadcasting live out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The Rundown Live is Milwaukee's independent news and talk radio for almost like 15 years. We're getting there. Maybe it has been 15 years, maybe this year in April. That's crazy to think that we've been around that long, guys. It really does. Who would have thought that, a couple of dudes in their basement doing like Wayne's World with a twist of coast to coast AM madness would catch on and we'd reach millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people in 15 years. It's crazy. But thanks to everyone tuning in. If you're in the chat, smash the like button, share the live link, and let us know you're here. If you guys got any questions, today's show, we're going to be covering a lot of interesting topics. A lot of things that are not being brought up in the news. I got a hold of some guests that will be joining us, not today, but Zoltan Isfan's going to come on. We're going to talk about these experiments of rejuvenating people by 75% and making them younger. Benjamin Button, isn't there a movie about that? Yeah, Benjamin Button. We'll be talking a little bit about that coming up, so make sure you guys are tuning in daily. Yesterday's broadcast as well was great. So here we have it. We're broadcasting live on Ground Zero Plus Radio. Ground Zero Zero Plus can be found in the Google Play Store. The whole station is called On Air Disclosure Talk Radio. Again, go to your iPhone and your Google Android and whatever your app store is on your cell phone, and just grab that little scrying mirror and say, hey, I want Kristan T. Harris's broadcast live, audio only. And you can get all our broadcasters throughout the day on Ground Zero Plus. So I wanted to give her friends over there who actually give us some airtime, some praise and cred, because they help us out. They've been here from the beginning. Also, our homies over at Fringit. Fringit.co. You can become a member for as little as $1 a month if you want to talk about social media that isn't infiltrated by AI bots. Basically, by charging $1 a month, you have access to a platform where you meet like-minded people. You can talk about just about anything, and you can get all these broadcasts, and they broadcast the Rundown Live right on their social media platform every day from noon to 2 Central Standard Time. So you can't beat that. For those who are catching us on the replay after Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis, welcome. I know a lot of you out there may or may not know who Kristan T. Harris is. That's me and the Rundown Live. But if you don't know, I want you guys to stick around because we are going to be tackling Bohemian Grove again today. But most importantly, we're gonna start off by asking some questions about some significant news stories that people are missing, right? And I do a lot of that on the broadcast. The first thing I thought that was a little bit weird in the news to me recently, and tell me this is not weird to you, the United States government went ahead and purchased some new domains. And you're saying, well, Kristan, what's the big deal that our government has purchased new domains? It isn't Bitcoin.gov, it is aliens.gov, alien.gov. Both of those domains on the interwebs is now owned by the United States government. How did anyone not own those? Is only government agencies able to have .gov? Probably. I'm guessing they probably regulate that. Otherwise, people would get conned. Oh, that's a government agency. But why has the government done that? I want you guys to think about that for a second. Why would our government get aliens.gov and alien.gov unless they're getting whip out a giant propaganda disclosure campaign? Aliens are here. And aliens are here. And as you guys saw in the beginning of the show, I decided to make my montage a little bit about demons and a little bit about aliens, a little bit about how weird our world is, talking about cloning and Palm Beach Pete, the dude. Yeah, I don't know. I hung out with Epstein. I lived in the same area as, Epstein. I'm not Epstein. I can't be Epstein. I'm Palm Beach Pete. And people are just like, yeah, and all of a sudden they're pulling his social media down, amongst other things. And, he might not be Jeffrey Epstein. I'm just saying he's probably not. Could be a clone, but probably not. Probably just a dude cashing in on it. But we're starting to learn more and more about this individual as we go on. And, social media maybe doesn't want any retaliation or be accountable for anything like in Sandy Hook, because there's a good chance that somebody might see this guy and might try to take him out. And then all of a sudden you can't question whether Epstein is alive or not. And they're going to be like, oh, no, well, we can't cover that kind of news, right? So anyways, bringing it back into aliens.gov, why would the government need this? Last week, the U.S. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency registered alien.gov and aliens.gov. Well, could those be illegal aliens, maybe? But here it says, but the move also comes at a time when the official U.S. government interest in UFOs or, unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAPs. That's the new cool kid name. See, if you said UFOs, that means you're a conspiracy theorist. And if you say UAPs, well, that's the cool kid lingo that you have conversations with your governor. Well, and you use that term because they don't identify UFOs. They're not programmed that way, which is another thing we're going to get into. Was Jeffrey Epstein running a program? And there's evidence that is online. Maybe it's we should dig a little bit deeper into that before we talk about it. But we'll play the video today to see if he was an MK Ultra product himself, right? So here we go. And so why would our government want alien.gov and aliens.gov? And I guess maybe to report sightings Why? They're going to turn us all into little like government agents. You're going to see something in the sky and you're going to report it immediately, and they're going to send some, fake UFO task force out. To be honest, majority of UFO sightings, almost all UFO sightings are fake, or can be explained rationally some ways, but not everyone has those experiences. We have those victim testimonies, like you heard in the montage in the beginning. Some people think aliens are demons and demons are aliens, but if aliens are demons, then means aliens are also angels, right? Because demons used to be angels. So it gets complicated. So could there be good aliens? I mean, I don't know. It depends on which rabbit hole you want to go to. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is how deep that rabbit hole goes. Maybe if you wanted to learn everything about aliens, the government would have somebody like Craig Campobasso, who I've had him sign this book. This is an interesting book called The Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. Like, I don't know if this is a D&D manual or if this dude really believes in the fact that there's all these aliens, but they use a lot of the new age terms in here that our government is using. So don't be surprised as all of a sudden we have like a Wikipedia for, aliens, and Palladian star seeds are going to have to go ahead and, register on alien.gov, maybe, or like the solar light beings, they'll have to come in and beam up. They have all these interesting beings, and I'm talking about this thing is loaded. If you want to go down this rabbit hole, you got the Zeta lizard humans. I mean, this is like straight out of like some Men in Black stuff. And I'm not saying that none of this exists. Lizard people. What's interesting is under LA, allegedly there was like lizard people. It's all interesting. And could the government be setting up to indoctrinate us, propagandize us? Here we go. We got a watcher. In the Bible, they talk about the watcher. It's a watcher male. And somebody drew a picture of it, and a vegan female. Vegans are from Lyra, a small northern summer constellation. And I think that's different than the people that don't eat meat. But what if they are like carnivores? That would be kind of funny. They have super angels. This guy went into depth about all the different claimed sightings, blue sirens, and he's got what solar system they're from. How does he know this? I mean, I'm guessing astral projection. This is right up there in the MK Ultra realm, right? I don't know how he got this information, if it was astral projection and he's hanging out with the Galactic Federation of Light and Commander Ashtar, right? And Commander Ashtar could be Ashtaroth, the demon. Who knows? But our government, nonetheless, has gotten alien.gov. And I don't really know why. I find it weird. I find it bizarre. And I think that somewhere down the line, there's going to be a LARP here. Like, the LARP's going to be big. Look at what we're seeing now. We have them setting up, Palm Beach Pete, poor dude, for some kind of maybe violence, or somebody actually thinks he's Epstein and they go out and harass him, God forbid, But I don't think those kids realize what they're getting themselves into. It seems almost like a propaganda run piece, in order to give a reason for people not to look into if Jeffrey Epstein is alive. But the whole aliens.gov thing is perplexing to me because there's so many claims of different types of aliens now. There's like grays, right? The demons, they turn into grays. But you also have people who believe they're star seeds and that they are indigo children and everything else. And I don't want to make fun of people that believe those things. Here you go, we got Men in Black. I just saying I don't understand it. Like, I'm interested in opening an investigation to better understand what is going on and what the real link is here, and why our government is choosing to go this direction. And a lot of people within our government were telling Trump, oh, it's demons. But at the end of the day, the government wants to control the narrative. So they're going to buy aliens.gov and alien.gov. And maybe if you're a Palladian starseed, they'll have you register and they'll parade you around as, oh, look, the aliens are here. And, everything we learned. And they're going to tell us some knowledge about, our past that we didn't know. But it's peculiar to me to see, right? The real aliens to me really are the people that hang out at Bohemian Grove. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but yesterday we talked a little bit about They call it the Illuminati list. Isn't it interesting that the mainstream media decided to use a term that we would always be called tinfoil hat? We're tinfoil hatter. Check this out. New Illuminati list. That's what the mainstream local newspaper of the good old Bohemian Grove, because they know where it comes from. They know the esoteric meaning, the Hollywood, the occultic witchcraft, because that's what Illuminati really is synonymous. We've learned through Doc Marquis, through Fritz Springmeier, John Todd, Lance, or whatever his name is. It ends up coming out like one way or another. And we're starting to see it all over the internet. That's what I was playing. Whether it's real or not, people are waking up to the idea that this is happening. So how are they going to slam the door on us? I mean, how did they slam the door on us before? Well, somebody went into a pizzeria and shot a hard drive, and they let the kid off, and he came from some organization that used some stereotypical FBI child trafficking symbolism, right? That's how you identify if this place is a place that serves pizza or walnuts or pasta or, grape soda or, all those other things that are jerky, all those things. Who knows? That's how you find out. It's a symbolism, because symbolism is a language. And I had one of the top traffic documents on the Wikipedia's leaks tying Andrew Breitbart's statement on Podesta being a child sex cover-upper. And, he's disappeared from the spotlight with all his weird Jeffrey Dahmer artwork in his home, which, I'm surprised. I bet he does the horror tour. He comes to Milwaukee. He's like, this is where Dahmer used to drink. That's Shaker's Cigar Bar, Al Capone's old bar in Milwaukee anyways. That I was making fun of. But it's a great place. It's interesting. It's just only cigar bar. You can have a whiskey and have a cigar and drink inside the building still. And they have a rooftop bar. You got to go through the old brothel that Capone allegedly had. It's very interesting history in Milwaukee. But back to the story. So the new Illuminati list just dropped, a leaked roster of 2,200 Bohemian Grove members. Now, I'm going to do something I don't normally do. This guy put together a phenomenal, lights out documentary. And I want you guys to be able to see it, to kind of dive into things. Because first of all, the Bohemian Grove, when I went through the Library of Congress, had a lot of documents around the fact that it was all men's club. It started with a druidic cult. Obviously, they have Minerva there. That's not Moloch. It's a representation of Athena or Columbia, or the female aspect of things, not Nimrod and Baal, the male aspect of things. Picture Baal's wife, right? Semiramis, the whore of Babylon. She's the one that devised and created the mystery religion. She isn't the one that carried it out, right? She's known for building the Hanging Gardens. She's also known as a moon goddess, right? And it's interesting to see that, Columbia, we have District of Columbia. Columbia is another alleged name for Semiramis. So all that being said, we have this interesting documentary by the man who released all of the Bohemian Grove names. And by the way, there's some famous people on here. There's musicians that everybody knows, like Eric Church. You got Conan O'Brien. And they're just like, yeah, right out here in the open, we all go to Bohemian Grove. Nobody's asking them questions like, what are you doing at the Grove, bro? So let's talk about this. Let's hit it. This is a mini documentary about how the Bohemian Grove list got leaked. Obviously, Daniel Boguslaw, what a name, Boguslaw, released this. So let's watch this here.
Behind this door, through this gate, and under these trees,
the drone wasn't able to fly where we wanted it to go.
It keeps dropping signal.
There is a real and actual secret society, a group of the most powerful, wealthy men in the world, going back over a century. The Bohemian Club is an invite-only, men-only social club in San Francisco that's long been the center of conspiracy theory.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Especially surrounding their yearly encampments at Bohemian Grove. Allegedly meant for the ultra-powerful to just relax and bro out.
SEAL Team 6 came.
The lakeside talks. That's key.
This is where they would keep all of the sex workers during the Grove. Presidents, CEOs, bankers, lobbyists, Supreme Court justices, CIA directors, and those are just the people who've been disclosed already. The full membership is meant to be completely private. But investigative reporter Daniel Boguslaw reached out to More Perfect Union with something wild.
This is every member of the Bohemian Club, and this is everyone who attended the 2023 summer encampment.
Even just the first few names I saw made me realize this is a story. Lots of people have already tried to enter the Grove or generally reveal its secrets, exposing the supposed occult rituals that go on inside.
Well, I'm Alex Jones, and I snuck in there in 2000.
But we wanted to know, what does any of this actually mean for the rest of us Americans who aren't part of this elite club? I get that they do weird rituals, but how is that my problem? So Dan and I went to California to investigate. We talked to workers from the Grove, a woman who has been protesting the Grove for nearly half a century and spent way too much time digging through old documents in hotel rooms. And what we found is almost scarier than any occult ritual. I know there's a lot of other stuff going on right now in the news, but investigating the Grove explains a lot of things that are broken in our economy and how the power structures of our country have empowered small groups of influential rich people who have been driving policy decisions behind closed doors for generations. And among many other things, we'll be reporting for the first time the involvement of a current senator.
There it is. Weaving spiders come not here.
Let's go back to 1872. The Bohemian Club was started as a hangout for local journalists before growing and admitting artists and intellectuals, and eventually admitting rich guys, because those other guys don't have any money. They could eventually afford this 6-story building on the edge of the Tenderloin. The building itself offers little information. Drawn blinds, no one coming in or out. But the club started hosting summer encampments in the NorCal Redwoods in 1878, eventually moving them to the massive Bohemian Grove. The encampment's secrecy and notorious rituals, like burning a giant effigy in tribute to an owl statue, they're really big on owls, have made the event a magnet for conspiracy theory. The list Dan acquired was for attendance at an encampment nearly 150 years later.
I went to the Bay. I found a guy who I knew would have the list. I kept showing up to his office until he finally agreed to give it to me. This is the original list of 2017, full membership list of everyone who's part of the club. Subsequently, I was able, through those connections, to get more and more, and that's where we got the 2023 Grove encampment.
And the list is massive. Broken down into the smaller camps the members are split up into. But it's a totally overwhelming amount of information. Any name we researched was tied to something. So at first, it was hard for us to draw specific conclusions and connections. But then Dan got in touch with a source who put us on the right track.
We'd love to talk to you about the club there.
Be prepared because I've been archiving and it's cold out here. I have no heat, so come with a good jacket.
Mary Moore, who lives not too far from the Grove, has been protesting and researching it for decades, long before Alex Jones even got his public access show.
Somebody came up and gave me a membership list, knowing that I was an activist. So we used it to research who was making the profit. These are the guys that prefer to work behind the scenes as much as they can. My purpose back then was to make people in the movement understand all our issues are connected by who profits from them.
So what modern issues can we tie directly back to the Grove? What was literally planned at the Grove that affects us today? There's decades of information. Reagan and Nixon specifically loved sending letters about their favorite secret society. But a few things in particular stuck out to me. How they rigged our economy and broke certain programs that we're only now seeing the effect of. How they established a vast dark money lobbying network. How they set up a tax heist scheme to funnel taxpayer dollars directly to executives. How they ruined the very city they're headquartered in. And how they hold on to the power. Let's start small and specific with the rigged economy. This little tidbit is from the Reagan Library, and as far as I can tell, we're the first to unearth it. It's a memo to Alan Greenspan from Edwin Harper, who's a assistant to the president, saying, "You asked for the paper we discussed at the Bohemian Grove," and it's this document called Social Security Reform Proposals. This is from 1981. In 1983, the Reagan administration did reform Social Security. They made cuts that are still affecting us today. So I reached out to an expert, Alex Lawson at Social Security Works, who sent me one of my favorite emails to receive, which just said, "Your thesis is completely correct. This cut to Social Security was planned at Bohemian Grove. And this is something that's going to be affecting like our generation." But that's not the only Reagan policy to come straight from the Grove. This one book tells the story of a Reagan advisor being persuaded to cut capital gains taxes by iconic investor Bill Draper, while they, quote, "sat semi-naked at the Grove." That little change is what enabled the high-risk investment model of the venture capital business, which spawned the tech industry as we know it today. Draper was on the 2023 attendee list, still attending the Grove 42 years later, as was his son Tim Draper, also in venture capital. That's another important part of this, the generational membership. Families that have been passing on power for generations, both in the form of wealth and these connections. And one of these families founded one of the most influential groups in American history. That's dark money.
Do any of these names ring a bell?
Charles Koch, obviously. Coors.
Pete Coors is the son of Joseph Coors Sr., himself the son of Adolf Coors, all three of the Coors beer empire. But the real legacy of Coors isn't beer. Joseph co-founded and funded the Heritage Foundation with other club members in 1976. Heritage is part of a network that has influenced, led, and funded pro-corporate politics for decades, all of which are connected to the club through funding, founders, or board members and directors. Heritage was immensely powerful during the Reagan administration and had huge influence on his policy. Charles Koch, synonymous with anti-worker political spending, obviously attends the Grove. And remember when Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas got caught taking lavish gifts from Club for Growth lead Harlan Crow? One of those gifts was a trip to Bohemian Grove. Heritage founder Coors Sr. is long dead, but his co-founder, Edwin Fulner, is on the attendance list for the Grove in 2023, when he would have been 82 years old. And he was on the board of Heritage until he died in late 2025. But there's one family that's more deeply tied to the Bohemian Club and elite collusion than any other. That brings us to tax heist. The Bechtel family incorporation isn't a household name, but they're one of the wealthiest families and largest private corporations in the world. There are two Bechtels on our list, and the family has been involved for generations. Here's Stephen Bechtel Sr. at camp with Henry Kissinger, which came with a cute little memo from Bechtel to Kissinger. The Bechtel Corporation works in massive construction projects, the kinds a government needs to pay for. This is just a partial list of people who sit in the center of the Bechtel executives' government Bohemian Club member Venn diagram. Caspar Weinberger, George Shultz, Edwin Meese, John McCone. McCone invented the concept of cost plus for government contractors. The system where contractors tell the government how much something costs, then get a little profit treat on top of that. Because the contractor determines the cost, they have no reason to keep costs down, especially surrounding executive pay. It screwed us on everything from how much of our tax dollars go to the wealthy to Medicare Advantage. Then, in the early 2000s, the US invaded Iraq. Driven by club members like George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, and Colin Powell. Bechtel got paid millions to clean up the mess. Since so much of this was planned at the Grove, we had to see the place, where the slogan is supposedly "weaving spiders come not here," which implies they aren't supposed to be doing business there. So what exactly are they doing up there? So we drove over.
No trespassing violators will be prosecuted.
And again, we're met with nothing but a security booth and some strange issues with our drone.
It keeps dropping signal. Pretty weird. I mean, I haven't seen this much interference.
It's not Grove season after all. But talking to some folks in the neighboring town, Monte Rio, had a lot to teach us.
At my old job, we used to point to the mountain where the property is, and then the people of the Grove came and told us that we can't say that.
But then Dan got a call that could give us an inside view.
Where I come from, It's kind of a rite of passage to work at the Bohemian Grove.
Two former employees of the Grove, a driver and a skeet shooting instructor, were down to talk to us, but wanted to stay anonymous.
It's all kind of structured in a way so that the members don't really have to see any of the workers. We don't have to interact with them. They're not supposed to interact with them. So what I saw was a picture of the entire cast of their production of Macbeth with Colin Powell as the lead.
Which all seems just kind of weird and lame, right?
It's cheesy. I don't think these guys are spending every day thinking about how they can fuck up the environment and the world consciously, but it's got to be nice to have a little respite from doing that.
Monte Rio is the poorest town in Sonoma County.
The cost of living out here has become unbelievable. It's almost as expensive to live out here as it is to live in San Francisco proper.
Similar is true of the area back in the city around their clubhouse. The Tenderloin is the poorest part of SF, a city that's been the center of national discussion about housing prices, crime, and homelessness, and a state that's been a hot point regarding taxing the rich, which brings us back to Dan's list.
So Dan, what's the name of this big SF advocacy group?
It's called Neighbors for a Better San Francisco. At one point, I believe still was the biggest big dollar spender in local SF politics. This group is spending on city council races, mayor races, trying to sway ballot measures, ballot initiatives.
Nick Podell?
Yep.
William Oberndorf?
Yep.
Stephen Merrill?
Bingo.
This thing's basically just an offshoot of the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, this is Atwater. He's the founder and former chairman of Prime Finance. He was one of the big backers of this neighbors group.
They most recently focused their spending fighting a ballot measure that would have marginally increased property taxes on the most wealthy to fund affordable housing. And top donor, William Oberndorf, who used his charitable foundation to donate $2,000 to Make-A-Wish Foundation and $200,000 to Neighbors. And Neighbors, like Heritage or any of these ghoulish national organizations, is just one part of a network of linked organizations sharing a small pool of donors and board members across the city. But let's zoom back out nationally. Mary said something that made me curious about the power of the Grove today.
Trump is not welcome at the Grove. He tried to join. He's not a member. He's not on the list, you'll see. They didn't want him.
But the Trump agenda is still inherently tied to the Bohemian Club. This is how they held on to power. Back in New York, Dan and I started digging into the influence of the club on today's administration and politics.
I found this clip of Ed Fuellner, who was one of the founders, and he's been attending the Grove for years. He was on your list in 2023. He did die a little bit after this, but here he is just a few months before that meeting of the Grove.
Tomorrow, at our celebration, we'll be introducing Mandate for Leadership 7, called Project 2025, Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. A sincere thank you from this old man who was around the first time it all happened.
The first time it all happened, that's going into the Reagan administration and making all the changes that we're still facing today that make our lives more difficult today.
And it goes to show these people's ability to reconsolidate power, right? They didn't get the guy they wanted the first time around. They didn't let Trump in, but they were still able to weasel their way in and craft his policy book.
In the months that Project 2025 was being written, the board of the Heritage Foundation was like a quarter Bohemian Club guys. But it goes even further. On our 2023 list, in Mandalay, the same camp as Michael Bloomberg and Henry Kissinger, for whom this would be the last Grove, is another name, David McCormick. At the time, McCormick was but a simple hedge fund billionaire who'd tried to run for Senate in Pennsylvania before being defeated by Dr. Oz in the primary. But just 2 months after this encampment, he announced he was running again. And this time, he won. So I compared our attendee list to McCormick's donors. 11 men in Mandalay camp donated to McCormick's campaign, and that's not even including the ones who gave through dark money channels. As senator, McCormick was part of an announcement with President Trump for a big push for AI investment in Pennsylvania, data centers and power plants. At the same event was this guy, Brendan Bechtel, the latest family CEO and heir to the Bechtel fortune. Bechtel is poised to get billions in construction contracts from this deal. Funneling money and power to Bechtel seems as important to the Trump administration as it did to earlier administrations. Bechtel is getting big deals with foreign companies for US construction, brokered by Trump. They have money tied up in the Venezuelan pipelines Trump wants to seize from the Venezuelan people. And they've been floated as a beneficiary of the Kushner-Trump plan to rebuild Gaza. We're seeing a level of collusion among the ultra-wealthy that seems almost unbeatable. They are all on the same team. They are all protecting each other. It's not even about party politics. Paul Pelosi, Nancy's husband, is on the list, as is his nephew, who works for Harlan Crow, as are several major centrist and Democratic Party donors. They have class solidarity. But so do we. A tenants union was organized specifically to fight against John Atwater's Prime Realty. And they've had big wins because they organized every building that Prime owns. Even workers at the Grove had a win. A class action lawsuit by Grove valets alleging wage theft, misclassification, and other labor violations went in favor of the workers.
I won some money recently in a class action about wage theft.
They weren't counting the overtime of the employees.
The whole world is moving towards understanding the connectedness that we all need to work together.
But knowing the truth, the connectedness, can help bring power back to everyone else. And we only scratch the surface here. We'll be releasing the full list, so you can dig through yourself. Let us know what you find and reach out to us at...
Very interesting stuff. I just wanted to bring you guys up to date on Bohemian Grove and what they found. That documentary was run by Jason Burmis. I hit up Bermy. I was like, Bermy, I didn't hear about this. I was so deep down the rabbit hole of the Jeffrey Epstein files and documents and leaks and just publishing stuff left and right. But we can't forget like Brittany Kaiser and Cambridge Analytica. Do you guys remember that, where they harvested all your data and used it in order to better identify which terms, such as like Hillary for prison, were popular, that caused virality and the algorithms to break? So there is a whole aspect of behind the scenes hodgepodge that goes on, and there's a documentary about it called The Great Hack. But that being said, I want you guys to listen to something. First of all, we have the Bohemian Grovers, right? We know about the weaving spiders come not here. What's interesting to me is predominantly these are conservative leaders, right? Because the conservative movement has been infiltrated by whom? Well, secret society people. You know why? Because they started out probably a lot of them as Freemasons, and they worked their way up, and then you start getting famous in country music like Eric Church, or you can be there like Conan O'Brien because you're funny, and you go and you partake in a mock child sacrifice, and you allow all that loving pagan demonic entities into your life and agent, and like really tear apart your soul, right? You give it all in, because the cremation of care is really their like crucifixion of Christ at the end of the day, right? They're giving up their dull care. They're going to burn a baby effigy. Well, they're like in Jeffrey Epstein documents, like eating kids and allegedly, but none of that is true, of course, according to the mainstream media. So let's keep it real here. We don't know that. We just know that something is jerky, something is grape soda, and it could be a code and it might not be a code. But that being said, I wanted to talk a little bit. If you guys have been paying attention to this broadcast, we've been interviewing a lot of MK Ultra survivors. We had Elisa E. on. We had Chris Latour on. We've had other individuals. I'm trying to understand how the MK Ultra programs work, and the whole Franklin incident where they literally program individuals. Now, this interview I'm going to play here, I found online, and I was just like, it interested me, right? It interested me because if they could mind control individuals to try to take over a government using MK Ultra to infiltrate our government, it's kind of like white hat hackers, right? Back in the day, but you're using people trying to infiltrate the government if the government is trying to program people. Because in order to validate that a Manchurian candidate could work, well, they got to see it in real life, right? And we had Ronald Reagan, not saying that was an MK Ultra, mind control person, but he didn't remember shit after shooting Reagan. He's like, who? What? No, wait, no, hi, I'm Palm Beach Pete. No, that's not really what he said. But, it's like what's going on in the world. So you can program people if you abuse them with satanic ritual abuse. You make them do such horrible things that they never want to remember it. So they build a wall to prevent ever remembering that torture. Multi-personality individuals, bipolar individuals are very susceptible to mind control and building multiple personalities, including Manchurian candidates. They had the alpha, the beta, the theta, and the omega. That were the programs. And, alpha was the assassin. Theta was normally the sex slave, the monarch that they'd bring out and they'd run a program. And then all of a sudden they'd be in a dreamlike state and they couldn't remember anything. It was like a foggy dream to them and they had no control over their body. But here, I want you to listen to this. This is interesting to me. This dude here is on a podcast talking about his experience on Epstein Island. And I want you guys to think about what he is saying. And I might pause it somewhere in between on this subject because I think that this individual describes what we've been talking about on the broadcast. And by that, I mean, we're talking about MK Ultra programming, that people are out there, that they're carrying on these nefarious programs still to this very day in occults and secretive government ops. Potentially some people say they're cloning individuals still. I don't really know at the end of the day if they're cloning or if they're not. But I think that there's some interesting things to be said here. Now, listen to this individual who claimed to be on the island.
When I was being taken to these islands, I would see all kinds of popular and famous people. About Epstein himself, he was really able to switch on a dime from, absolute murderous rage killing to just completely pleasant and like affable. And his, I guess, his programming was more successful.
What does he mean by his programming was more successful? His programming was more successful. What do you think he means? If you've been listening to his program and you've been seeing us talk about people who've been programmed, they start them at a young age. Was Jeffrey Epstein just an MK Ultra asset at the end of the day? At the end of the day, is that really what he was? Here it is again.
And his, I guess, his programming was more successful than mine.
Wow.
Because he was very quick on his feet and totally changed to suit the situation always. That's
Palm Beach Pete changing the situation. I'm just saying. I'm not saying Palm Beach Pete is Jeffrey Epstein, but
probably why he was in the role that he was in. Tremendously versatile and very good code switcher, and just really, he could deal with the high-minded and the low-minded. And
very good code switcher. He could go from one program to another. A very good code switcher, Jeffrey Epstein. Interesting.
Just kind of bring everybody to their basis level and send them on their way to to experience whatever horrible things they might want. It was a well-run operation.
Well-run operation, guys. I don't know. Here it is in the news. We're talking cloning. Jeffrey Epstein, billionaire-backed scientist, aimed to grow headless humans and farm their organs. Okay. Why? Are these things life if they don't have a head? They're going to grow headless humans? Does this thing still get a soul? Is it a blemmy? Is that what they're going to call it at the end of the day? If you don't know what a blemmy is, a blemmy is old Greek and Roman, partial folklore, but it was seen on maps allegedly they claim to be an offset of contamination from Atlantis when the Atlanteans started doing perversions of humanity and combining animals and humans. That's where you got the centaur, the minotaur, the Valkyrie, mermaids, and all these things that they created. It's also in the Book of Giants, the sins committed against mankind and all these animals. I think that is predominantly what they're talking about, is interbreeding the DNAs and creating all these weird monsters or humans or whatever out of it. But here we have it. Billionaires back. Scientists aim to grow a headless human and farm their organs. Biotech company R3 Bio hope to produce non-sentient bodyoids. Oh, non-sentient bodyoids. They can't think, so there's no soul. As an ethical alternative to animal testing, with one investor in the firm hoping that the tech could allow scientists to harvest lab-grown organs. We talked about this, switching out body parts like an oil change. Well, how are they going to justify having clones and make it okay? Well, don't worry. It's got a head, but it's got everything else. So does it react the same way, right? Does it get excited around women, when it gets touched? Or, like, what are they going to do to these things? Like, my idea immediately goes into the disgusting world of Jeffrey Epstein and the things that they do to, young children, or claims of what they've done. Obviously, he is a convicted criminal, so it's not a question of if it was happening. It is happening and has happened. Just because a drug dealer is busted doesn't mean people aren't getting the drugs elsewhere. That was the big story I had for the BBC, and they didn't like the thought. They're like, so what can you leave us with? And I'm like, well, if you were a kid and you smoked marijuana back in the day and your drug dealer got busted, did you stop buying pot? No, you just went to a different drug dealer, right? At the end of the day, that's what people are doing. They're just going where it's legal and doing these kind of experiments. Billionaires are pumping cash into cutting edge technology right now, and this is one of them. They want to literally engineer organs, right? They're going to create a human body in a lab, and it's going to have no head, and they're going to call it a blummy. I'm just saying. And here, this is for those that don't know what a blummy looks like. And it's spelled Blem, BLMMYES. It is the Headless Men. And it was actually written in history. People claimed to have met these individuals. Then again, folklore, legends, and bar tunes. Sometimes I wonder, who the rock band was back in the day that was touring all these restaurants that people would come out and see because they loved the tunes. They would sing about blummies, and maybe that's how it got started. But blummies, an Eastern desert people who appeared in written sources from 7th century BC until about 8th century AD. And how I explain their origins, that's exactly what we know about them. And by the way, for those that don't know, we did episodes on this many years ago. This is a blummy, all right? And then they have this one, which is like, oh, is that a real picture? Is that AI? But allegedly these are some old photographs, and that's what a blummy would look like. Blummy, headless man from Ulisse Eldrovandi's Monstorium Historia 1642. Various species of mythical headless men were rumored in antiquity and later to inhabit remote parts of the world. And so... yeah, this is what the blummy is. You got the face and the stomach, and it has no head. What's that giant tooth guy that they used in Bugs Bunny? That was a blummy, if you didn't know. He's probably the most famous blummy. I forgot what he was called. But, they're an art form, they're an artwork, and sometimes they would be seen with, different types of heads on them, and allegedly they were a perversion that came out of Atlantis, right? And... when they crossbred animals and they made monstrosities, and, God destroyed the world due to that, allegedly with the flood. That is kind of where it is. Greek mythology, you can look it up. Blummies. Maybe I'm killing that and I'm not saying it right, but that's what we're going to go ahead and just make these days. We're going to go ahead and just make a bunch of blummies and harvest their organs, but it won't have a face. But what about all the ethical concerns? And so the elite don't care about ethics at the end of the day. What they really want to do is go ahead and just have clones of themselves walking around and try to figure out how to remove their soul from that body into, whatever the latest body is. That's what's going on. They want what's that great movie on Netflix that was where the guys had sleeves and they would just download their consciousness into another computer. It was a really good first season, and the second season they just blew it by switching out the main character. I forgot, but it was a good series. Anyways, if you guys know what I'm talking about, drop it in the chat. Basically some guy was in jail and they were renting out his meat suit and they downloaded him into a body that wasn't his original one. Big sci-fi movie. I can't remember it for the life of me. It's a really good series, but we should talk about that sometime and some of the symbolism that's in there because it's kind of a crazy thing. But the CEO of Immortal Dragons told Wired Magazine that they hoped R3 Bio would soon be able to produce human bodyoids too. Oh, okay, we got more people that want to go ahead and get involved in this. The human body is not a collection of parts, it's a system. We can't keep studying diseases and pieces and hoping the results will scale. Whether we're testing new drugs, mapping rare disorders, or training AI models, the biology we use needs to reflect the biology we live in. Yes, this will be difficult, it will take time, but it's only scientifically and ethically defensible path to eliminating animal testing is to test on ourselves. Oh, okay, so we're going to go ahead, instead of testing on animals and hurting animals, we are going to create headless humans, and we're going to decide they're going to keep them alive, and who knows what else they're going to do to them, right? And then they're going to saw off parts of their body that you might need and go ahead and use it as backup. You can have a backup clone. It's going to be a big business, right? Because then maybe you want to have a new kidney put in. It's 100% match. That's where we're going here. That's where we are going. Tell me that is not weird. I'm telling you, it's weird. Well, you know what else is getting really scary is this government surveillance. If you guys haven't been paying attention, because everyone's talking about Iran and everyone, is talking about Jeffrey Epstein. One of the things that has really been going on is that we've been eroding our liberties and freedoms while nobody is watching. We're using ICE to justify it because as long as, the conservatives would be okay with the New World Order as long as Donald Trump led us into the New World Order. That is very true. I believe that that's what we're seeing right now. Hack data shines light on Homeland Security's AI surveillance ambitions. Well, guess what? Remember old Ron Paul? He's like, well, the TSA, well, what next? They're going to expand them to the railroads, and we're going to have government agents on the street just making sure everyone's safe from terrorism all the time. And now it's the illegal immigrant. We got to be scared of the illegal. They're going to sneak in here. Iran has sleeper cells. Believe it or not, I probably believe that there are terrorists here who snuck across the border. Hopefully they say, oh, America's damn good. I'm not going to blow anything up. Screw this, dude. I don't want to go back. Obviously, if your religion's seeds are grown and they grow horrible, rotten fruit, you don't want to be part of that culture in life. You want to get into something that is loving and will change you. But what's interesting about this is the government has a new initiative, all right, based on this hacked information. And that hacked information should be scary to you because what they want to do is get like facial recognition and biological scanners to be able to go around and just identify people. They'll take your picture, right? They get a little add-on. It pops into the bottom of their phone, and it allows them to scan your face in and see if you're on any database that they want. They'll get your fingerprint, and basically they're going to stop you now harassing you, wanting biological information about you. And that's kind of scary, considering that digital clones are a big thing. Then all of a sudden the government has a digital clone of you sitting in their database, just in case they need to pin something on you, right? Because you're not a good citizen. But I'm telling you right now, that's not a good idea. So ICE is going to go around. They're going to infiltrate the airports. They're going to start scanning people's faces, looking for illegals just to send them out. I'm telling you, this is getting scary. And how long before this is used on the standard American who doesn't comply to whatever the New World Order's agenda is? Because that's where we're going. At the end of the day, we are two separate paths that are going, left and right and left and right, and then they're slowly getting closer together until it's going to be one damn path leading us right into the New World Order. right? Isn't that what we're getting with Greenland and Venezuela and Mexico and all these problems, and talk about Canada joining the United States? Well, that's that hot, wet North American Union that Alex Jones used to always talk about. Predictive policing. Okay, first of all, they're spending $524,000 taxpayer dollars on AI platforms that will ingest 9/11 call data, with one apparently promising to identify and predict crime patterns. Oh, pre-crime. They've been working on this. Pre-crime is here. They want to just put people in jail if they get out of line. That's it. Just if you don't politically or you don't agree with them. They want you to make a mistake. They find a mistake. They can track you everywhere you go at any time. That's how they can assassinate people. It's just crazy. But why not get a bunch of biometric scanners, just give them to ICE and have them scan everyone everywhere? Another great news I think you guys should know. Check this one out. We'll put it on full screen for you guys. England opens door to genetically modified babies. Oh, they're going to modify the babies. What are they? Now you can get that little Baphomet baby. Maybe you can get that Lord of the Rings elf baby, witchcraft baby. Maybe you can give it angel wings. I don't know. DNA and CRISPR gene editing. Of course, you're just going to want to get rid of diseases. I'm joking. I'm just telling you it's a slippery slope, and this is where we are heading. England opens door to genetically modify babies. Now we're going to just go ahead and just modify babies. And we're going to have headless human farms where they're going to have bodies, and everyone's going to have a digital twin. And now baseball is ushering in AI referees and umpires. Yeah, well, now you'll be able to challenge whether a pitch is a strike or not, and the AI will decide what's good for Vegas odds. What if it malfunctions and it agrees with the umpire? Like I don't understand where baseball is going with this, but baseball as well is getting a little crazy. Like they want to go ahead and have you be able to challenge balls and strikes and everything else. And basically, they're going to have robots do it. How long till robots play baseball? They're just going to be hitting the ball a mile. Why not just let, they're like half cyborg. They got like a bat as a hand. So people are making clones of themselves. Alien.gov has been purchased. All that and a whole bunch more, and now they're calling, they've been spraying stuff in the sky, and they're going to say, we're going to have record breaking and smashing heats this summer because we're doing weather modification everywhere. But don't call it chemtrails, because chemtrails, according to Grok, is not weather modification, but weather modification is chemtrails, and it's not really about that, but that's really what it's about, and they use everything else to discredit the fact that they're poisoning us with aluminum oxide and Welsbach stratospheric aerosol injections through microparticles under 0.5 nanometer, because that EPA doesn't check for anything. Also, Pope Leo, by the way, this is an interesting story for those. I talked to Leo Lyons Zagami about this a little bit. Pope Leo the 14th hosts exorcist at Vatican. Surge in Satanism cases raises concern for vulnerable believers. And their claim is the delegation presented a detailed report highlighting the increase in cases linked to occultism, esotericism, and Satanism. Okay. So, as always, knowledge is the gateway to, Satan, which isn't entirely true. That's why I study, and that's why I communicate with people to find out what the truth is. But according to the Catholic Church, esotericism, which in occultism, which both are the same thing. It's like saying secret, and Satanism. Because esotericism and occultism has the same definition. It's, hidden. It doesn't mean nefarious at all. But Satanism, that means nefarionism, which is Luciferianism, which a lot of it stems from Gnosticism. So the Catholic Church is worried about it. They're having exorcisms all the time. And I'm just wondering, are exorcisms real? Like, what are they? Like he said that some of them manifest as gray aliens. I'm like, okay, but that doesn't mean that all aliens are demons. But, if the aliens are demons, they can be angels too, like Clyde Lewis said, which is a little bit thinking outside of the box, but interesting stuff. That being said, guys, if you enjoyed today's broadcast, I need your help. Support me. Check out therundownlive.com. Go out there, let your friends know to tune in. Find us on Spotify. Find us on iHeartRadio and all these other great platforms we are. This is Kriston T. Harris talking Bohemian Grove 2023. Do a deep dive. Dig deep and make some reels on the Bohemian Grove list. 2,200 people released across America. Check it out. Tune in and let your friends know. Tomorrow we'll be live. Same bad time, same bad channel. I'm Kriston T. Harris. We're heading out. We'll see you soon, Milwaukee.
Do you come to Milwaukee often? Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land. I think